Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Long time no see. Per usual, I've pulled this yearly routine at this point where I return for draft season and then just make 3 videos once a year, disappear, rinse and repeat, do it the next year. And we're back, baby. I do actually have plans to make videos. I kind of want to make football content because I actually do enjoy doing it. And I kind of want to put more effort into things. The thing is, I have recorded videos. It's just as soon as it comes to editing said videos, I actually just don't do it. So, my bad, I suppose. Today, I'm just going to be doing my playoff predictions for the upcoming weekend and, so forth. That being said, I've done this the last 2 years. I've been brutally wrong every single time. I might make a video on my original predictions for this last season that just finished. It's not good. This has been the most unpredictable year in football, and I think the playoffs will probably be more the same. It's hard to tell, because the thing is, this year there's been so many brutally bad teams, and so many just teams that beat up on those. There isn't very few actual average teams. It feels like there's just so many teams that are either just the worst of the worst or the best of the best. So who really knows? Once you put the heavyweights together, it's kind of more predictable in some ways. That being said, I haven't uploaded in a year. We got a new apartment. I don't even know if I've uploaded here. Maybe not. I can't even remember the last time I actually uploaded. I know one thing that's new in my life that you guys definitely have not seen. I got this little guy. His name is Ozzy. He's almost a year old now. We got him when he was a little puppy. He's the light in my life. Alright, this is my boy, my son, my child. He's very interested in the microphone. He can't have it. Just thought I would showcase my child before I ultimately put him down for the rest of the video. But this is my son. I love him very much. Alright, I'm going to go put him back before he destroys everything in my apartment. Okay, starting off in the AFC, we have the Broncos and Bills. The Broncos are one of those teams that I actually was not very high on moving into the season. I also honestly was not very high on Bo Nix as a prospect, especially as a year 1 starter. But ultimately, it was a great decision. I'm extremely impressed by him. That being said, I do believe the Broncos are far from a perfect team. Their roster is not exactly fleshed out yet. They're very young. They lack experience in the playoffs, obviously, with a 9-year playoff drought. I just question if they're going to be able to go into Buffalo and get the job done. I don't think that honestly the Broncos look great down the stretch of the season. The Bills honestly are another team that surprised me. I really was questioning their wide receiver depth for this season after losing Stephon Diggs last year. And they drafted Keon Coleman, who I didn't really think was a wide receiver 1. And to be fair, he really isn't, right? It's just they have enough depth, and they have Josh Allen, who makes things happen. But I do think that the Bills are going to walk away with this one. I do know that the Broncos obviously just had a really impressive game against the Chiefs, if you can call it that, right? It was against the backups, but again, it is the Chiefs, so take that as you will. It should give them some confidence going into this one. I just don't see it happening for Denver. Moving on to the Steelers-Ravens, for those of you that don't know, I'm a Steelers fan. In my delusional mind, I think there's a chance that they roll into Baltimore and get the win. That being said, I'll obviously pick the Ravens, just because I think that they're a true contender, whereas the Steelers obviously are not. The Ravens have won playoff games more recently. M&T Bank is not an easy place to roll into and play in the regular season. The Steelers obviously coming off 4 straight losses. I expected them to lose all of those games. I don't think they're as bad as a 4-game slide would tell you, seeing as those losses came to the 2nd-ranked Eagles, the 1st-ranked Chiefs, and the Ravens themselves. And all that in a 10-game slide, or 10-game span, not easy. They did just lose to the Bengals, but honestly, I thought overall I was impressed with how the defense played, they held them to 1 touchdown. If the Steelers' offense can somehow, some way get away, start rolling, I do think the defense is going to perform. And if the defense could bail them out enough to get a win, Lamar Jackson has a spotty history against playing against the Steelers. It's still probably just going to be the Ravens. They are without Zay Flowers, most likely, which is huge. The Steelers need every break they can get when it comes to cornerback play. So, we'll see how that goes. Chargers-Texans is one that I've kind of gone back and forth with. I don't like the Texans, but I also know the Chargers have been flawed down the stretch as well. Chargers obviously not a team that's accustomed to being in the playoffs, I don't think. Not really. Pretty hit or miss. The Texans obviously came into this year with a world of expectations and haven't held up to them. That Christmas Day game where they only scored 2 points against the Ravens really weighs in my mind. Their confidence probably isn't exactly where you need it to be. They did finish the year pretty strong, though, their last couple games. I do honestly think that the Chargers are going to beat Houston. And then moving on to the NFC, we have the Packers-Eagles. I like the Packers. I think the Packers are a team that can win a football game any given Sunday against any given team if all their cards are played right. If the Packers play mistake-free football, don't turn the ball over, and just perfect what they do well, they can beat any team, any given Sunday. It's just they're pretty inconsistent when they show that, right? They have their ups and downs. The Eagles are a very good team. No surprise there. Saquon Barkley was a good pickup. Again, no surprises. As long as he's healthy, he's a great player. I do think the Eagles win this game. They, again, are contenders where I don't think the Packers are. This game ultimately depends on Jordan Love and what side of him you see, because, again, he's not the most consistent quarterback in the league. I think the same, honestly, can be said about Jalen Hurts. I just think his weapons are better. I mean, Christian Watson is out. I don't really like their chances to roll into Philadelphia and win. Commanders-Buccaneers is, honestly, most people probably won't say it's a good game. They'll probably look at this slate of games and say that's the weakest of the 6. I think it's an incredibly fun game. The Buccaneers have been rolling. The Commanders started off hot, have kind of been on and off down the stretch, right? Jaden Daniels has been phenomenal. They have their pieces, but the Buccaneers have just been rolling. And with Washington wavering a rookie quarterback, I do think the Buccaneers win. But again, this is honestly, other than probably the Bills game, I do think any of these games could go either way. And maybe the Ravens. You can make a case that the Ravens are just going to blow the Steelers out in the first half. But I do believe that a lot of these could swing either way. The Buccaneers have been rolling, though. Baker Mayfield has looked phenomenal. It's very hard for me to pick against Baker Mayfield. Vikings-Rams is another great game. The Rams have looked very good. Once they got healthy, they just started rolling, and they really haven't looked back. The Vikings have been one of the most shocking teams in the NFL. They've just been steamrolling, right? I know last week they got absolutely embarrassed by the Lions in a game that was supposed to be much bigger than it was, right? It was supposed to be the game that proved that they were contending for a Super Bowl. And that just was not the case. The Lions just proved that they're significantly better. The Vikings have been in a ton of one-score games, which usually is not a great indicator. That includes against teams that are not playing still, right? So moving into this one, it's very hard to say which way they're going to go. I am leaning towards Minnesota getting the win here, but it wouldn't shock me if the Rams pulled it out. That leads us into the second round. I do think the Chiefs beat the Chargers. The Chiefs and Chargers have had an amazing regular season playing each other. 2 very close games, right? I believe one of them was one of those block kicks that the Chiefs won on. So again, the Chiefs have been a case study this year, honestly. They've been unlike any other team in NFL history, I think. Just the amount of one-score games they've won is just unbelievable. But again, a one-score game is a dual-edged sword when you look at overall projections, right? It's just anytime you see a team that has a ton of one-score games, they're just one slight mistake from losing that game. So honestly, you look at a team like that, and they might not be as good as their overall record, right? With the Chiefs, I think it ultimately comes down to coaching. Andy Reid does a phenomenal job. And I do think that they beat Jim Harbaugh. Now moving on to the Ravens-Bills. Phenomenal matchup. The Bills look unbeatable. Lamar has kind of a spotty history in the playoffs. You could really go either way here, and I wouldn't be too upset about it. I feel like every year I predict the Ravens to start rolling in the playoffs, and then it doesn't happen. It depends on Zay Flowers, too. I do think he'll be back for the divisional. He's kind of game time decision for the Steelers, honestly, although it's looking like he's going to be out. They don't need him to beat the Steelers. They do need him to beat the Bills, right? So I think, depending on that, you could go either way. The Bills' defense is really good. The Ravens' defense, too, though, honestly, has taken a step forward from where it was last year. Lamar Jackson, it all rests in his hands, right? He has had some playoff games where he's kind of fallen off. But then again, Josh Allen hasn't really gotten over the hump either. I'm going to give me Baltimore. Give me Baltimore. I think the Bills will be favored to win. But that Baltimore team is extremely good when they get rolling. So we're going to go with Baltimore there. Vikings-Lions, judging by the other night, I think this is a pretty obvious decision. You might be able to squeak past the Rams. I don't think you can get past the Lions. I just don't think it happens. Montgomery is going to be back, apparently, they believe, at least by the divisional. So they're eyeing a return for him. In the same way, I just don't see Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay taking down Philadelphia. It's one thing to beat a Commanders team with a rookie quarterback that's inexperienced in the playoffs. I know they made it, was it last year or the year before? I think they made it the year before when they were like 8-9 or something like that. They made it in. But regardless, not a ton of experience on that roster in the postseason. With a rookie quarterback that has had a couple bumps down the stretch, you can get past the Commanders. The Eagles are just a much more complete team, and I just don't see Tampa Bay getting the job done. Now moving on to the AFC Championship game. Chiefs-Ravens. Again, the Chiefs have won a ton of one-score games. They don't seem to put teams away. They did look super good down the stretch and got some big wins against good opponents. Overall, it's just hard for me to root or to pick against Patrick Mahomes in the postseason because we've seen it every single year. I mean, this Chiefs team is definitely better than last year's Chiefs team. Most people wrote them off. I believe they were a 3 seed last year. Most people didn't think that they had it in them, and obviously they did. So I had them as a first game exit. So I'm not going to do that again. I do think they beat Baltimore. It's going to be really rough for Lamar if something like that were to happen. I just can't pick against the Chiefs at this point. I mean, they just do it every single year. At some point, you just got to learn that they're probably going to do it again, right? A ton of one-score games, but at the end of the day, they win those games. Whereas the Ravens, I don't know if they will. So, again, I'm just not going to pick against Mahomes, even though I will say the Ravens probably have a better roster. But the Chiefs have just been here before, right? The regular season for the Chiefs is just a warm-up for the playoffs. Eagles-Lions, ultimately I think this depends on the injury report for the Lions. If they can heal up and get healthy for this, I think they stand a chance. I also just believe that the Eagles are a very complete roster. They're going to be very hard to get past. It is going to be in Detroit. I'm sure if they get to this situation, Detroit's going to be booming. But I'm going to go with Philadelphia, I think. I think a lot of it boils down to injuries. I don't know how much I trust Jared Goff. I know he's been there before. I mean, I guess. I just think Philadelphia ultimately has been more impressive since, about the midway point. That would give us a Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl. There's a lot more interesting Super Bowls. I'd love to see the Ravens and Lions. That'd be phenomenal. That'd be fun. That'd be a lot of fun. Ravens-Eagles would also be fun. Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, that'd be a blast. I just can't bet against the Chiefs, and I just don't know who's better than the Eagles in the NFC. The only team that really stands a chance in my mind is the Lions themselves. The Chiefs are just definitely the best team in the AFC. You can make a case for the Bills. I think the Bills honestly would stand a better chance than the Ravens would. They've done it once before. But it's just, I betting against the Chiefs hasn't worked to this point, right? Moving on to the Super Bowl, Chiefs, Eagles. I know I said I wouldn't bet against the Chiefs, but I think I'm going to bet against the Chiefs. I just believe that ultimately an NFC team is going to win the Super Bowl. Whether it's the Eagles, whether it's the Lions, I think both of them are better than any team in the AFC right now. If by some miracle one of those two teams doesn't make the Super Bowl, then yeah, I could see an AFC team winning it. I just think those two rosters are so much more complete than anything in the AFC right now. So I'm going to go with the Eagles. And that's my prediction. Is it going to be wrong? You betcha. I'm sure it's going to be wrong. I'm sure I'll only fucking hit half of the wildcard games, probably. That's how it was last year. So I'm hoping and praying that this year I'm a little bit more accurate. So the goal is 50%. Anyways, I do hope you guys enjoyed. Expect more content too soon. I've been digging into the draft class a little bit. It's not very good. I'm actually not a fan of this draft class that much. I think it's a phenomenal year if you need a running back. Phenomenal year if you need a running back. I think it is a great year if you need a safety. It's a really good safety class. It's a really good defensive tackle class too. So if you need some of the less flashy positions, this is the year for you. I'm not a big fan of the O-line class. The quarterbacks aren't very good. I think there's a lot of top-end talent. Like the first round, 2 rounds is really solid. I just think that there's a pretty steep drop-off after that point. So I know this isn't the video to get into all that, but just felt like it needed to be said. Anyways, I do hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video that I make, assuming that I actually make a video.